everybody. Been a little time. We're almost through the alphabet. We've got stuff to do today. I'm going to combine the letters U and V and then, W, X, Y, Z and all that stuff. But today is relationships and dating from A to Z, the letter T. And there's a lot in here. So just, less than 2 minutes on each. Just going to pick the subject given by you guys and see how it goes. All right. So boom. Oh, my favorite topic. Time to DTR. DTR means define the relationship. Man, oh man, oh man. Okay, so I think as opposed to defining the relationship like in early dating, I think it's usually a big rush to define the relationship per se, like, is this serious? Is it not? Are we committed? Are we taking our profiles down? All that stuff. I want you to think of it instead as defining how much responsibility we have to each other at this point. You always want to be careful with each other's hearts. You always want to be careful with everybody's heart. You don't want to just treat people disrespectfully or, lead them on in such a way that makes them think that you're far more committed to them than you are. I think that most women could stand to slow their roll a little bit in this category. And if you are going to sleep with somebody and you don't really know if you're monogamous, then by all means, please use condoms, because this does not mean you're monogamous just because you've had sex with him. And it doesn't mean that he's your boyfriend. It doesn't mean he's not sleeping with somebody else. You don't even know if he's done sleeping with his ex-girlfriend. So protect yourself, because then you can always have the conversation. And this still doesn't even have to define the relationship all the way. You can still have the conversation that says, well, if you don't want to use condoms, maybe we can talk about whether or not we're monogamous. And because now you're putting trust in somebody, you're putting your trust in somebody for your health, and you're bonding with them more and more. And so, I've asked women, like, how soon should a guy know that he's serious about a relationship? And I've had women say, like, right away, one date. And that's just not how it is. That's just not realistic. And any guy who's super into a commitment right away like that, they're probably kind of controlling. So you really want to be making the decision to move forward with somebody and taking yourself off the market, so to speak, out of not out of fear, but out of just sheer delight to be with them, and a feeling of joy to take your profile down, or to just know that you're just seeing each other and you can make future plans. But this sort of rushing to define the relationship thing, this is one of the things that's really going on. I think it's a product of getting sexually involved quickly, which I have no judgment about, but you just have to know that bonding is making you want, like, definition, and you really shouldn't be signing up for somebody that you don't know anyway. So I would say slow your roll. That's what I would say. Okay. Text versus call. Oh, boy, this is almost a generational thing, isn't it? I think that texting can be used a little bit too much to sort of stay connected and sort of give you the illusion of actual relating. So you want to make sure, particularly in the beginning, it's no problem to kind of text to make plans and stuff like that. But if somebody is really just trying to connect with you via text, I would say, I love texting with you. I'm happy to hear from you. Do you want to hop on the phone later and then we actually have a conversation, right? The one thing I am highly against is Snapchat. I have to be honest. The women that I know that have used Snapchat when they're dating just end up being so frustrated. Here, what does that say? So, because of the sort of the location, and there's no privacy, and you don't really know if somebody's messaging just you or if they're messaging everybody. So I would say texting is super useful, but I wouldn't create your entire connection around it. Thoughtfulness. Yes, thoughtfulness. Thoughtfulness is, I say yes to thoughtfulness. I don't think it's a lot to ask for somebody to be thoughtful. When somebody is thoughtful, what that means is that you were present with them in their mind, right? And they are thinking of you. Thoughtfulness is a sign of somebody actually having empathy, which is a really important thing for somebody to be healthy in relationship. That's the empathy, is the ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes, to put it simply. And so when somebody is thoughtful or they think ahead, it feels like love, right? Because it feels like you matter, and your needs matter, and that you might have been in their mind, you know, so I'm present with them. So yeah, if you think thoughtfulness is important, that's why. Tits. Yes. I'm not sure what the question is, but I will say the same thing I said about boobs, which is they are like snowflakes. There's no two alike. And so just love the hell out of yours. All right. Tinder. You gotta take Tinder for what it is. I mean, I actually know people who've gotten married off of Tinder. So it's really not, it doesn't really matter how you meet, you know? I think though, that if Tinder is frustrating for you and you're finding, if you're on Tinder and you're like, guys just want to hook up, like whatever, duh, you're on Tinder. Come on. Like think about where you're at, you know, it's like going to a bar and saying people are just so drunk. It's like, yeah, they're drinks. So, you know, Tinder's kind of a hookup site. So yeah. So don't get mad at the app. Just get off of it if it's bugging you. Travel, how soon? Okay, there's some things you got to think about when travel. You check out my YouTube. There's one on going camping early in the relationship. Travel. Okay, first of all, make sure that they're not an axe murderer. Okay, just like cover your bases as far as safety is concerned. Make sure you know somebody enough to know that they have like family and friends who, you know, care about their whereabouts. Think about this when you plan a trip, okay? You go on a cruise with somebody, you're gonna be in a really tiny room and that bathroom is right there. And so you just gotta think about your comfort level. And, you know, if you're gonna go camping, you gotta poop in the woods, that might not be the most romantic thing for you. It might be a little bit uncomfortable. So if you're gonna travel with somebody after you've already determined that the safety issue is not a factor, think about what you really want that to look like. What is that trip gonna look like? So take these things into consideration, okay? So that's what I would say about that. And don't make it too long right away. I mean, my God, if you know, start with a weekend. Don't go off to Europe for 3 weeks with somebody you've known for, 5 days. Thinking versus feeling. I think this is regarding thinking questions. So one of the things that I like to offer to women is that when you're talking to a guy and you're trying to figure out what's going on for him, instead of saying like, how do you feel about this? How do you feel about us? Use a thinking question. And what I mean by a thinking question is something that gets him into a story. So my favorite thinking question is, in a perfect world, how would this have gone? Or in a perfect world, how would this evening look? In a perfect world, how would I have responded to that? Okay. That's going to get him in a thinking question and kind of solution focused and story focused. And you're going to get a lot more information. How he feels about the situation is probably going to come out in that story, but that gives you actually something to work with, right? So start with a thinking question. Okay. Time for yourself. Very, 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 very important. I can't stress this enough. If you can just not be in resistance to having time for yourself, because let me tell you something, you meet somebody that you're crazy about and this relationship takes off, suddenly, boom, like on a dime, you've got no time for yourself. And if you're not used to taking time for yourself and feeling good about it, then you're not going to build that in to your relationship. And you will very likely become way too available or kind of like sitting around waiting for him and wondering what he's doing and why isn't he filling up your evening? When in fact, if you get really used to needing and caring about your time for yourself, then you're just plain old going to be more interesting in relationship. All right. That's just what I'm going to say. Transparency. You don't have to reveal your whole thing right away. You know, I think that transparency is important if you're, going into third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh date with somebody and there's things going on in your world that might, if the mystery around what's going on with you is causing that person to not trust their own instincts, I don't think that's really fair. I think that we want, I guess what I'm saying is that it's not your job to just sort of like lay your whole heart out on the table, because that can be too much for somebody. But also, should they disappear or ghost or even just say thank you but no thank you, then you're feeling very open and vulnerable, and I don't think it's really necessary right away. I think you can be transparent about the facts of your life. I'm divorced, I have kids, I have this, but I don't think that an extreme level of transparency is really necessary. But if you find that you're dating somebody for a while and you're not sensing any transparency, you're frustrated about like, where do you really live? I haven't actually seen where, things like that. Then if you're feeling that in your body where it's not resonating, it doesn't feel congruent to you, then I would encourage you to trust yourself. Trust and gut feelings. Boom. Haha. Yeah, trust and gut feelings. Trust is something that's really earned over time, isn't it? I mean, we want to be trustworthy, and we want to, in order to experience more trustworthiness in our lives. But trust is something that's earned over time. And it's also something that's really hard to get back once you've lost it. Because it is sort of, it's based on emotional safety in sharing or depending on or having an expectation, right? Trust is not about, putting your self-worth in somebody and trusting that they're always going to make you feel worthy. That's on you. But I would say that your first job is to develop a trust for yourself and for the feelings in your body, trusting your gut, right? When something feels light or heavy, when something feels congruent or not, whatever that feels like in your body, you want to get used to trusting that so that you can trust your gut feelings. So that would be that. Talking it out. Okay, one thing about talking it out, remember we talked about that don't go to bed angry thing. Sometimes if you're extremely tired or drunk or high or whatever, just freaking go to bed, okay? And talk about it in the morning and clearer heads will prevail. Talking it out, again, use that technique I was talking about, the thinking question. Really, if you're going to talk it out, then you're going to need to be a safe space for each other. You're going to have to say, like, if we're going to talk about this, it's going to be an actual conversation. Assuming that I hope that I've answered whatever this question is, talking it out. Some people need a little bit of time. If, like I've said before, if somebody, they're like, they want to talk it out, but they need to cool down. Let's say they're like, I just need to go for a walk and then we can talk this out. Let them go for a walk. Don't accuse them of this being something that's like, oh, you're abandoning me or you're ditching me. If they need a little bit of time before you talk it out, then so be it. You got to give that to them, and then you will develop trust, right? If they do go for their walk and they come back and you can talk it out, now that adds to your level of trust, right? Okay, now next time this happens, I can trust that you're not ditching me. You're not walking out on me. You're just cooling off so that we can talk this out in a peaceful way. So yeah, talking it out. Truth. Well, truth is a topic. Okay. I said this before too. I think that everybody's entitled to some privacy. However, so just because you ask a question, like, let's say I'm thinking about people's past, I know that this can cause problems in relationships where it's like, well, you didn't tell me about this in your past. And it's like, well, maybe you weren't ready. Maybe you just wanted some privacy. We're all entitled to a little bit of privacy. And so obviously it's important in terms of trust to be truthful as much as possible. But I think also, I think we have to be reasonable in what we demand from each other, particularly early on, as far as what we ask somebody to reveal. I think that truth, as far as living by your own truth, capital T, truth, is essential, because then no matter what somebody else's truth is, you can make allowance for that. You don't have to be in resistance to it. You can make allowance for that. And then you can just decide if that is someone that you choose to be in relationship with. See, if you can just take your truth and live in it, and then be just curious about other people's truth. You can come from a place of curiosity, and curiosity is a great thing to lean on, because it doesn't mean you like it. It doesn't mean you have to ever like it. It doesn't mean that you have to agree with it. It doesn't mean anything. You can just come from a place of curiosity. Curiosity is a much better vibration than judgment. It's a much better vibration than suspicion, right? It's curiosity is your friend when it comes to relationship, particularly early relationship. So that's all my teas. Does anybody else have any teas? Nope. Okay. All right. So, yes. So thank you for tuning in. Check out my Facebook page if you want to give me any suggestions for tomorrow for the letters U or V. We've already got the Google. Don't worry, that's covered. So thanks again for joining me. This has been Relationships and Dating from A to Z, the letter T, and I will see you tomorrow for the letters U and V. Bye.